First, develop and present yourself as millionaire wife material. Ideally, find your mate early in career so that the two of you can build wealth together as a team. And if you choose to pass on marrying early, perhaps marry a spouse who is a bit older, but still young enough to have additional children, if that's what you want. And a final thought. While you may fall short of building a multi-million-dollar estate, you can still enjoy a highly satisfying life if you're only just affluent. Hello again. Welcome to The Ruthless Truth. I am your host, Truth Davis. In this forum, I share opinions, thoughts, truths on a wide variety of topics based on what I believe to be a unique life experience. And you can read more about that in the notes or in the bio. My intent is to share stories and hopefully provide some life and career lessons that will help you on your journey. Please follow me on Instagram at TruthDavis5 and subscribe to the YouTube channel Ruthless Truth. General format, I'll share some initial commentary on current news or just some thoughts. Then I'll have a deeper discussion on one topic, which will be today's truth. And then I like to finish with an American history fun fact. Okay, so what's going on in the world? Well, by far, the biggest story of the week is that the federal government shutdown is finally over and the government will reopen after being closed for 6 weeks. So how is this resolved? Well, 8 Senate Democrats joined the Republican majority to pass a budget continuation bill with a filibuster-proof vote of 60 yeas to 40 nays. Now, before we get into all the political uproar, combustion, and controversy, let's first understand what this means. Okay, so the good news, federal workers will start getting paid again and receive the back pay that they've already missed. I mean, how many of you can go without a paycheck for a month? And the workers who were deemed essential, such as TSA agents and air traffic controllers, were expected to report to work knowing they weren't getting paid. Now, I've personally traveled a lot during the shutdown, and I made a point to thank the TS agents for showing up because that's solid work ethic and dedication. Also, it looks like holiday travel will not be a catastrophe and families will receive their full SNAP benefits. Now, the Senate deal also reverses the layoffs implemented by the White House during the shutdown, and all those workers will get their jobs back. So that's all good. Now, there are many other provisions in the bill, but those are the key points. Thus ends the longest shutdown in the history of the country. It was painful and unnecessary. Okay, now to the fallout. Democrats are livid that 8 of their senators' colleagues caved and gave in. Most Democrats believed they were in the right to hold their ground and demand that the Affordable Care Act subsidies be extended. Without these extensions, the 42 million Americans on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, would see their monthly premiums double on average, and some would experience increases of 3 to 4 times more than they are currently paying. The Democrats say they were fighting hard for the American people, while Republicans were cruel and uncaring. With their recent election victories, the Democrats believed they had the momentum and leverage to win the standoff. But now they feel betrayed by their own and that they were unable to protect Americans. Okay. Here's my somewhat cynical take on this. You know, I truly wonder if the Democrats are as upset as they claim. As I've said in the past, politicians rely on our short memories. They screw over voters all the time, but they take solace in that over time, we'll basically get over it. But this healthcare issue, it's a little different. People will not forget it because every month when they have to pay that higher premium, they will be reminded of the pain. And I believe the Democrats aren't going to let people forget that. They won't forget that they tried to stop the rate increases. I guarantee you this will be their leading campaign message going into next year's midterms. As I have also stated, if it was up to me, I'd vote all of them out of office. This shutdown was painful for us, while the legislators really felt no pain at all. I'd love to send the message that both parties need to focus on what's best for the citizens or pay the consequences. Most of these folks in Washington don't really fear consequences. Hopefully, we can change that in the future. Okay, it's Thanksgiving season. Now, in next week's episode, I'll discuss the true story of Thanksgiving as opposed to the bullshit we were all taught in school. But for today, I just want to talk about the dinner. You know, I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. It is by far my favorite holiday and my favorite day of the year. There's no gift pressure. It's just family, football, and food. Oh yes, the food. Look, I appreciate tradition as much as the next guy, but can we reconsider the traditional Thanksgiving meal? You know what I'm talking about. Turkey, stuffing, or dressing in Black households. Mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, mac and cheese, etc. I mean, do we really wait all year just to have this menu? It may or may not surprise you to know that there really aren't that many people who just love turkey. In fact, surveys show that many people consider it to be dry and one of the least tasty poultry options. And there are a lot of people, myself included, who don't like casseroles of any kind. And please raise your hand if you ever eat cranberry sauce on any of the other 364 days of the year. I say, let's expand the menu. Why can't we have Thanksgiving prime rib or lamb chops? I think many people would appreciate a holiday lobster or salmon option. And to me, nothing says holidays and family like a nice spicy tuna sushi roll. Let's shake it up this year, people. Let's start new traditions. It could be fun to ask family members what they really enjoy eating on Thanksgiving. And let me take just a moment to speak to my fellow Black households about traditional soul food offerings. And right now, I'm not just talking about holiday meals, but soul food dishes in general. You know, I think it's past time we let some dishes go entirely. Specifically, chitlins, pig's feet, and other less desirable parts of the pig. Do you realize the history? It was during slavery that the white families discarded these scraps. But the slaves, being resilient and innovative, they took these scraps and transformed them into palatable dishes that over time became soul food staples. These meals were born out of necessity and resourcefulness. But you know what? The whole pig is now available to us. It's totally acceptable to have center cut chops along with ribs and ham. Similar to the traditional Thanksgiving fare, are we eating this because we really find it delicious, or is it just tradition? I realize it's an acquired taste and some people really do enjoy it, but it may be time to move on. Just saying. Okay, let's get to today's truth. Okay, today's truth. You know, I spend a lot of time on social media, probably more than I should. And one of the more popular discussion topics is dating and marriage. What are guys looking for in women? What is it about men that most appeals to women? And at the risk of oversimplifying it, it appears the ideal for a lot of women is a tall, good-looking, rich guy. An understandable preference. I mean, that sounds good, but it's a lot harder than it sounds, and it's harder than you think. Few things happen in life without a plan. So if marrying well is truly a goal, I'm going to share some insight and perspective to help you at least build a plan and perhaps increase your chances of success. Okay, first we need to quantify the opportunity. Of the current millionaires in the United States, 86% of them are already married. So after you do the math, that leaves approximately 3 million single millionaires. On the other side, there are about 33 million women aged 25 to 39, and that includes married women. Now, the reason I included married women because I believe there are many married women who would leave their current husband to marry a millionaire. Maybe I'm cynical on that. So the numbers aren't favorable. But still, someone has to marry the rich guy. Why not you? I realize that many women, especially younger women, haven't really met many, if any, truly rich guys. So they form their opinions on these men based on what they see on TV and in movies and, of course, social media. But most of them don't really understand what these men are looking for and what they're like. Many women assume that the hotter they are, the better their chances. This is flawed thinking. I mean, don't get me wrong. All men are attracted to good-looking women, but looks alone won't close the deal. I mean, some women show up and basically declare, I'm hot. I'm like, okay, good for you. So are 20 other women in the room. I mean, what else you got? You're not that unique. And you really don't need to be that hot. Just hot enough. I see a lot of women spending time and money to go from a 9 to a 10 or from an 8 to a 9, while many men are totally satisfied with a 6 or a 7. So what else is needed beyond looks? Well, what are your interests? Are you able to discuss or comment on current news items or national trends? Do you have opinions or views? My personal key test? Am I comfortable leaving you on your own at a party, with my peers and friends? Meaning, if I'm not by your side, I'm confident you're not going to say something that embarrasses me or yourself. I know of a woman who recently started dating an affluent guy. I mean, she's in her late 20s, he's in his mid 30s, and he's really into her. But she was frustrated because she felt he kept trying to change her. He wanted her to change her clothing style as well as how she did her nails and lashes. What he was trying to do is get her to better fit in with his friends and their girlfriends or wives. And she struggled to understand why it mattered. I assured her, it really, really matters. I really don't know what happened from there. Finally, while appearance is important, it doesn't need to be over the top. Understated and classy is far more appealing than flamboyant or provocative. Of course you can wear a weave, but it can't be pink and down to your waist. Fake lashes are fine, but not so long that people can't see your face. This may be the look you see on reality TV, but in actual reality, when you attend events where there are people with money, you just don't see that look. Okay, so with the basics addressed, let's get going. All right, there are two great options or potential paths to marrying a millionaire. And then there's a third option that's not so great, but still available to you. But anyway, let's get to them. First, and by far, the greatest option is to marry him before he's a millionaire, when he just has potential. And there are a couple reasons of why this is the best option. First, young millionaires are rare, okay? Only 6% of the millionaires in the United States are under the age of 40. Let me say that again. Only 6% of millionaires are under the age of 40. Building wealth takes time. People make money in their 40s and 50s. That's when they get rich. Now, I know social media makes it seem like all these young people are out there just balling out, but that's just not the case. And as I've stated many times, if you add up All the athletes, all the rappers, musicians, actors, and any other celebrities that you can think of, that total population constitutes less than 2% of all the millionaires in this country. Okay? I personally know that potential is important because in my mid-20s, that's all that I had to bring to the table. I mean, I had just graduated from grad school, was driving an old Pontiac Sunbird, and just about to start my first real job. My wife's friends were surprised and somewhat disappointed that she chose to be with me. To them, she had better options available. But she would just tell them, you know what? We have fun together. He's smart. He's good to me. And I think he has lots of potential. You know, when you connect with a guy early, the two of you can work together to build wealth, which not only increases your chances of being successful, but it also strengthens your personal bonds in the relationship. Look at many of the famous millionaires you know: Steph Curry, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Jeff Bezos, LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes, Mark Zuckerberg, Snoop Dogg. All of them married women who were with them before they became rich and famous. These couples built fortunes together. And there's one other key benefit to connecting before the wealth is attained. If for whatever reason the marriage doesn't work out, the wife is assured to receive a favorable divorce settlement. Think Mackenzie Scott. Now, I get it. There's a downside. I mean, do you really want to be married and tied down while you're still in your 20s? I mean, that's the fun age where you're traveling, hanging out with your girls at brunch and happy hour, just carefree and enjoying life. And many women feel that's way too young to be talking about settling down. I truly get that. But let me say this. The fastest 5 years in a woman's life is from age 27 to age 32. At 27, you're still in your mid-20s, living life, having fun. But at 32, you realize, damn, I'm almost in my mid-30s, which is an entirely different phase of life. Now, unlike some other online influencers, I don't believe it's over after age 35. I see attractive women not only in their 30s, but in 40s, 50s, and even 60s. But if you're thinking about marriage and starting a family, you probably need to get going in your 30s. I knew a woman in her mid-30s who was asking me for help in finding husband prospects for her. And let me be clear, not only was this woman extremely attractive, but she was smart, funny, active, and had a wide range of interests. I mean, she was the total package. But I told her, oh, no, you missed that boat. She's like, you're telling me there aren't any balling guys in their mid-30s? I'm like, oh yeah, of course there are. But they were taken off the market years ago when they were in their mid to late 20s. Those were all the guys you were ignoring because they didn't have enough money at the time. So you have to proceed to option 2. And option 2, marry a man who was recently divorced from his first wife. Now, while most successful men get married early, they don't all stay married for whatever or a number of reasons. Regardless, there's a pool of men in their mid-40s to early 50s range that still prefer to be married and may still be open to having additional children. Now, you will occasionally encounter men in this age group who have never been married. It's not common, and I would view this a little bit as a red flag. So if you choose to pursue a relationship with a man in this category, I recommend you invest time and effort to understand why he's been single so long. Has he just not found the right person? Did he just really enjoy the freedom of dating multiple women? You should try to find the answer out sooner versus later. And if you're in your mid-30s, to these men, you're young. Now, I know there are some women who prefer to marry someone their own age, but the data shows that if the age gap is 10 years or less, the relationship has a really good chance of success, and the age difference really won't be much of a factor. Now, in these situations, it's important that you display a certain degree of maturity. Because you'll often find yourself in social situations where you're much younger than everyone else in the room. And you need to be comfortable with that and able to participate in conversations. Because despite the age difference, you need to see yourself and they need to see you as a peer. Now, I hesitate to mention the third option, but I need to at least acknowledge it. You could also look to marry a much older man. He may be divorced or even widowed, and on rare occasions, never married. In this scenario, you just need to understand and accept the trade-offs. Think Melania Trump. So, to summarize, first, develop and present yourself as millionaire wife material. Ideally, find your mate early in career so that the two of you can build wealth together as a team. And if you choose to pass on marrying early, perhaps marry a spouse who is a bit older, but still young enough to have additional children, if that's what you want. And a final thought. While you may fall short of building a multi-million-dollar estate, you can still enjoy a highly satisfying life if you're only just affluent. Happy hunting. Okay, let's get to today's American history fun fact. Today's American history fun fact. Success in business is hard to achieve. That's why most people in business fail. Over 20% of small businesses fail in the first year, and over 50% fail within 5 years. 90% of startups fail, as well as 90% of new product launches. So, in today's American history fun fact, we're going to look at one of the most historic product competitions where the superior technology and product actually lost the battle. In the 1980s, video cassette recorders, or VCRs, were developed and made widely available. Now, there were two competing formats of cassettes for the players. And these two formats were battling for dominance in the home video market. One technology or format was known as Betamax, and the other one was Video Home Service, or VHS for short. Now, the VCR manufacturers such as Panasonic and JVC and others did not see how they or their industry could support both cassette formats. They believed the industry needed to standardize around a single technology. So the question was, which format would ultimately prevail? Well, Beta was the early leader as it launched more than a year ahead of VHS and held 100% of the market share in 1975. And while VHS launched in 1976, Beta and many category observers expected Beta to maintain its leading share. And there was good reason for the belief. From a technology perspective, Beta was the superior product. It had better and clearer picture quality. Additionally, Beta had less crosstalks and it had lower video background noise. And while it's not always the case, in this situation, both the media, the consumers, and the video production companies all agreed that Beta was the superior product. Sony, the manufacturer of Beta, believed that having better quality recordings was the key to success, and that consumers would be willing to pay a higher retail price for this better quality. So what could be the problem? Okay, here was the problem. And it happens every day in technology and product development. You see really smart people who develop phenomenal products and amazing technology that do amazing things, and they think, that's it, game over. Nope. And you know why? Because they forgot or overlooked the most critical component or factor in business: the consumer, the customer. I see it all the time, especially in Silicon Valley. They believe the product is king. Marketing? Psst. They look down at marketing, often seeing marketers as just glorified salespeople. But marketing represents the voice of the consumer. And it is the consumer who decides whether a product is a success. And in this case, Beta missed it. Yes, Beta was superior technology and delivered a better picture, but VHS had one advantage over Beta. A Beta cassette could only hold 2 hours of recording time, where a VHS could record up to 6 hours of programming on a single cassette. Not only did consumers see this as a much greater value, as one VHS tape was equal to 3 Beta tapes, but it was also convenient. You could record entire long format programs such as the Super Bowl or the Academy Awards show on a single cassette. That mattered to the consumer far more than a potentially somewhat clearer picture. Again, VHS launched in 1976, okay? By 1980, VHS controlled 60% of the North American market. By 1981, sales of Beta machines in the United States had sunk to 25% of the VCR market. As movie studios, video rental stores turned away from Betamax. And the combination of lower market share and a lack of available titles further weakened Betamax's position. Additionally, VHS was the preferred format for the porn industry, which also contributed to Beta's demise. So by 1987, VHS accounted for 90% of the VCR market in the United States. And in 1988, VideoMax magazine declared that Beta had lost the format war after Sony agreed to start adding VHS to the company's VCR lineup. Okay, that's all I have for you today on The Ruthless Truth. Thank you so much for listening. Again, follow me on Instagram at TruthDavis5. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ruthless Truth. And there's also a Facebook page, Ruthless Truth. Thanks again, and I will talk to you soon.